Okay, welcome to Getting Started Lab for the introduction to the unit. If you go to Forensic Investigations Moodle site, you'll see some practical material, and that is preparing the image for examination. So if you click on that link, it will take you to the Google Doc that details what I want you to do, and you'll see that you have to get access to an image, and that image will be on all of the machines in Buckingham Building 011. If not, you can run this shell script. You can also download the image. Bear in mind that it is 6 gig in size in compressed format, and you decompress it using this command here. So I'm going to do some things over in this window over to the right. And the first thing is, let's just have a quick look at that image. So I'm not going to decompress it now because it's going to take far too long, but we can see that it's quite large. We've got something that is 26.8 gigs in size. And what I'm asking you to do to start with is take a hash value of that image and ensure that before you do any investigation, you take the hash value to make sure that you haven't actually changed any of the data that's stored within the image before you start doing any work on it. That takes a couple of minutes. While that's going, I'll talk you through some of the things that we're going to do. I also recommend taking a SHA-1 hash of the image, so you're doing both an MD5 hash and a SHA-1 hash, and then before you start work you do both of those just to make sure that those hash values are identical. We're going to start by identifying the partitions that are on the image. Recommend that you write these down, noting the offsets of the partitions. I'm going to show you a couple of ways of doing that. We're going to examine the partitions that we find. We're going to identify what operating system we think is being used with some tools, and we're going to use some tools from SleuthKit. I'm also going to talk you through how to mount it, because mounting it is just going to be very easy for me to navigate on my machine here. We're also going to have a look at some of the users who have registered accounts, and then we're going to talk through where we find some of the installed software packages. So while I've been talking there, we see that the MD5 image has the MD5 hash, has completed. So we now have a hash value for the image file, and your hash value should actually be identical to mine. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have a look at the partitions that exist here. Let me just make this slightly bigger. So I'm going to use MMLS in order to have a look at the partitions that exist, and it's reporting here that I have a partition which is NTFS or exFAT as a file system, and that is an offset of 2048. Now I'm going to need that offset because I would like to use both FLS in order to detail the file system, and FSStat FLS in order to give me some idea of the directories that exist in the file system, and FSStat to tell me a little bit more about that file system. So let's start off with doing this. I'm going to use FSStat to start with. I'm going to have an offset of 2048, and I'd like to, so what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to identify some information based on the file system of my partition here. So this is what we find. File system type is reported here as being NTFS. It's reported as being NTFS, a version of Windows XP. There is some meta information here. Okay, there's some content information, but we've now answered at least one of the questions from the slide. So we've taken that, we've identified the partitions, we've noted down the offset. So in examining the partition, we've identified the operating system that's in use. In order to answer some of the further questions, we're going to have to do some more stuff. So we need to identify users of registered accounts on this computer. I can use FLS in order to have a look at some of the files that exist on this partition with an offset of 2048. If I have a look at that, that will tell me, okay, so I've now got an idea about the inode entries for whatever these are referred to in Windows, for all of the directories, so the root directories that I have here and some of the files that exist. And in order to have a look at some of the users, I can actually run the same command again, but I'm only interested in the identifier for users, 144 minus 5. And that will tell me, right, okay, it looks like, so from standard Windows directories, I've got two users here, one called Barry and one called Jessica. I can do exactly the same thing and have a look inside the program files directory. So let's just go up. I'm going to use a different identifier for program files. I'm just going to highlight here and press the middle button with my mouse key. And then we can find all the program files that have been installed. So I've got something called Conduit, Google, most likely Chrome, Internet Explorer, IRC, Thunderbird as an email client, Notepad++, Oracle, Skype, Views, and then some other Windows applications. So some things of interest to note, and actually I believe that answers all of the questions here. Yep. So let's just do something else, and I'm going to mount this image so that I can navigate using well, I'm actually going to navigate using the standard file manager on my version of Kali that I'm running at the moment. In order to do that, I'm going to make a directory. I'm going to make a directory on my root mount folder, and I call that directory FORIN image. Might help if I did this with sudo. There we are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to mount. So I'm going to use the mount command. I'm going to have to mount the partition I'm looking for, so I need to offset. Now, instead of offsetting 2048, I actually need to offset 2048 multiplied by 512. You should have covered the reasons why you need to do that in Forensic Fundamentals. And I go 104.8576, which is the offset that I need, image.img, and then /mount/ FORIN image. So I should now be mounting that image. Right, that's great. I happen to already have mounted it. Sadly enough, I've mounted it as USB. Let's try that somewhere else. Okay, so now we get this to run, and I happen to have mounted it under /mount/ FORIN image. So that means that I can now go to /mount/ FORIN image, and I have a look there, and what I find is all of the all of the information that I was able to see earlier as I was using FLS. The interesting thing, of course, is now because this partition from the image is now mounted and accessible through as a file system, I'm able to look at it here, so I can actually go to using some file navigator. I can go to my FORIN image, and here I can have a look and see. Right, well, let's have a look in the users directory. I can see Barry, I can see Jessica, so I can double click and navigate those folders. And I can also navigate to the program files folder to have a look at the applications that are installed. So you have some further questions here. For the installed software packages, write notes about their function and purpose, and write down any forensic evidence you think you'll be able to recover from later labs using from any of the installed software. We make a point, don't look for the evidence now, but that gives you a bit of a head start in how to start using the image, how to mount the image, and how to use some of the sleuth kit tools that you've used previously. Okay, thanks.